Well, good evening, everyone. This is the Red Hook, Town of Red Hook, public hearing on the fiscal 2022 budget. And it is Thursday, October 28th. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. We have with us this evening Anne Conway, our bookkeeper, all around superhuman, to help us tonight. We are here with the preliminary budget. We had a budget workshop a couple of weeks ago, and for the folks at home, we'll do a very brief presentation, and we'll take some comments. Okay. Let me know if you can see. All right, if you joined us for last night's town board meeting, you've heard this already. I apologize. If not, we'll give you just sort of the highlights. The 2022 tentative budget, now preliminary, maintains and expands services while keeping taxes flat to lower. This is now the 6th year that we've been doing this. In this budget, rates have been reduced by just a hair over 4%. That's to offset the town-wide 4% increase in residential assessments. We're mandated by New York State to stay within certain parameters for 100% assessment. And so we've done that. Our finances are starting to recover from COVID-19 impacts. Some of our revenue sources are returning to more typical levels. In fact, some actually exceeded pre-pandemic, and many others are still have not rebounded yet. The budget, any changes in the budget of note are just that we are once again funding free access to our municipal properties. That includes our recycling center, and we hope to expand and have some additional events there, e-waste and other types of events. We'll have more information on that coming to you during the course of the winter. We have been able to obtain a lot of grants, and we're very fortunate to have very good working relationships with other levels of government and the private sector. In 2022, we are excited to tell you that we are finally going to start some work in St. Margaret's, thanks to a grant to increase accessibility there. And we have applied for additional funding so that we could do more work in the near future. Resiliency and clean energy are important in our community. As everyone knows, we've done many projects. We have successfully applied for funds to replace the generator here at Town Hall. It's important to keep government running, and also to install a generator at the Red Hook Community Center, which is also our heating and cooling center for Red Hook. We also have had annual increases in compensation budgeted for all our labor lines. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted some of the deficiencies in our buildings. We don't have very large facilities here in the town of Red Hook as compared to our fellow municipalities. We should consider using ARPA monies to expand and modify some of our municipal buildings and to provide for a safer environment and guard against potential future outbreaks. In particular, our firehouses, our fire companies are going to need some assistance if they're going to modify their spaces to provide for greater safety there. COVID underscored what we already knew, which is that our open space and other recreational resources are critical. And so we'll be building out our trail network and exploring other recreational opportunities in 2022, some of which you'll hear about soon. We've also discussed expanding the skate park in Rec Park, which is probably the only area that we have not renovated to date. The real estate market provided for a spike in some of those mortgage tax revenues that actually have started to moderate. You'll hear about that as I make a suggestion for lowering that estimate for 2022, but it has put pressure on housing. I just, as a matter of fact, finished up a Zoom with the folks at County. They're having a study conducted, and it deals with housing affordability and some really interesting insights, which hopefully we'll be able to share with you in the next few months. But that is something that we want to be mindful of and make sure that we're providing housing options, especially for many of our workforce here, volunteers, and certainly, the firefighters that we were speaking of earlier. And then we just talk about how Red Hook is the envy of the Hudson Valley, and we have highly regarded schools, local businesses. Our economy here is doing really well. We're very fortunate. When you look at the investments we've made, many of the decisions, the capital coming into this community, our farms. Back in the day, there were some skeptics who wondered why we invested in preserving our farms. Well, our farms have really been the economic engine these last few years, and certainly have been the recipient of over $10 million worth of investment. So we need to, as always, we need to make sure that this community is available to all people of different economic levels. And that's the way we're going to keep it, the quintessential American small town. Okay, just a few highlights of the 2022 budget. Once again, lowering the tax rate by 4% so that we keep taxes even. Fund balances and credit rating remain strong. Risk assessment is extremely low. Here are some of our bond notes.
You need to scroll.
Can you see that? Highlights of 22?
Just the budget message.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Can you just scroll down, or?
Yeah, you're on the first slide, Robert. You have to go down further. There you go.
You're able to see that?
I think
No, you have to go over
sharing
and
the
Click on it again.
You're sharing the PDF, Robert. It doesn't look like the window that you're looking at is the one that you're sharing with us. There we go.
Try that.
There we go. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. One more time. So just notes that I was referencing, credit rating, tax rates, fund balances, continued work on various municipal projects, recreational expansion. We've just concluded a few projects. Again, highway solar. We have a very nice installation that's set to be turned on any day now. Work is complete. Some of the things I mentioned, the retrofitting. Town Hall has been retrofitted with everything from insulation to change in lighting. We completed our street light purchase and conversion also this year, and we're saving quite a bit of money. We're happy to report. Also mentioning the Community Choice Aggregation Program. I mentioned this briefly last night. Folks wanted to know. It's the opt-out program. We joined with many other municipalities to buy bulk energy to bring into our communities renewable energy. And we're happy to report that in the first 4 months, at least, of this second round, a 3-year contract, the folks who decided to stay in are saving quite a bit of money. For example, the October equivalent by Central Hudson is 33% higher than what folks who are in the program are paying for their energy supply. Fast charging stations are planned both here in the Village Hall parking lot. So again, continuing with our work towards reducing air pollution and making our community a cleaner one. Recreational park overhauls, we just can mention what we've done over the last couple of years, created new courts, and rebuilt much of the park. And the reason we're able to do this, we'd like to think, is because we're being more efficient with your tax dollars, but it's also because we're partnering and working very hard to get grants and to leverage those grant monies. And here are just some of the grant dollar amounts we've been able to get. We've also done some refinancing of existing debt, which has saved us money. And here are some of the other initiatives we've taken that we expect will provide savings over the long term. Okay. Very good. So those are the highlights of the budget. At this time, I would like to, Deanna, are you with us? Is Deanna with us?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Had to
Okay,
unmute.
you had to unmute. No worries. Deanna, would you be kind enough to, I'd like to make a motion. We open the public hearing on the preliminary budget. And would you be kind enough to read the notice, please?
Notice of public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on October 28th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. local time to hear all interested persons on a preliminary budget for the 2022 calendar year for the Town of Red Hook. Due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, the Town Hall is closed to the general public except by appointment until further notice. Pursuant to New York laws of 2021, Chapter 417, the public will not be permitted to attend in person. Board members are expected to participate in the public hearing via teleconference or video conference. Please refer to the meeting agenda to be posted on the town website at www.redhook.org, listing the specific link which will allow the public to view and listen to the proceedings live, which is expected to be available at pandatv23.org. Click on Watch Live. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard as follows. 1, the public is encouraged to submit written comments by email or telephone in advance of the hearing to townclerk@redhook.org and 845-758-4606 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please note preliminary budget 2022. 2, written comments may be dropped in the town's Dropbox in advance of the hearing at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please observe the recommendations of the CDC regarding distancing and use of masks. 3, all comments so received in advance of the hearing will be noted in the hearing record. Interested persons may also comment by email or telephone to supervisor@redhook.org and 845-758-4622 on the date of the hearing from the time of opening the hearing until the close of the hearing. Please take further notice that copies of said preliminary budget are available for inspection by any interested party during the town clerk's office hours by appointment only, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 4:00 p.m. at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571, and on the town's website, www.redhook.org. The compensation to be paid to the following officers is as follows. Supervisor, $32,575. Town board member each, $9,175. Town clerk, $58,798. Town justices each, $18,806. Highway superintendent, $69,054. By order of the town board of the town of Red Hook dated October 14th, 2021. Deanna Cochran, town clerk, town of Red Hook.
Hey,
Thank you, Dean.
Deanna, can you
Yes.
just, what's the amount for the council people that you just read?
Oh, $9,175.
Okay, because on the slide here, it says $9,145.
Oh, okay. This is on my public hearing notice. So I guess we're gonna go with that one, $9,145.
I just wanted to note there was a
Yeah.
difference, so we'll have to make sure we know which one we're doing.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
typo,
This
there's
is
a
just my
typo.
notice. That's it. So.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
It's okay.
so there's a $30 discrepancy, a typo on the council person's figure.
Is it
On
a
my
type-
public
It's a
hearing
typo in our
notice.
public hearing notice.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thanks very much. We did receive some written comments for the public hearing, which I will read. We received a note from,
Pardon me, Robert, you made a motion to open it, but I don't think we voted on it.
oh, we don't technically have to vote to open it, but we can go ahead and do that. Bill, would you like to second opening the public hearing?
I will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first comments come from Bob and Angie Hahn, who reside in the village, but the village has its own highway department, but obviously everybody who lives in the village uses town roads. So they write to the town clerk, "Dear Ms. Cochran, we trust that you will pass our comments on to the town board members. We share the concerns of our highway superintendent. Please thoughtfully consider hiring a full-time CDL driver and replace both the 20-year-old backhoe and the 20-year-old plow truck. We have been blessed with relatively mild winters the last few years. Were that to change, the present plow truck, present backhoe, and number of drivers would not be adequate to clear our roads. We have appreciated being able to safely drive on our roads. We appreciate that emergency vehicles and school buses can do the same. This year, it is especially imperative to be prepared before the need arrives. Please carefully and thoughtfully consider the wisdom of our highway superintendent. She has served us well." Also have another communication from Barbara Sanchez in response to Ms. Burke's request for comment regarding her budget request for personnel and equipment. I must strongly compliment the staff of the highway department. Our roads are plowed early. Our roads are well maintained. Mowing requests are answered quickly. For them to complete all their projects with outdated equipment prolongs the time spent to complete. Without sufficient personnel, projects take longer. Neither option supports the effort. I appreciate my taxes being spent properly. Our town employees deserve our support. And then finally, we had communication from Linda Keeling. 2021 budget increased highway funding. I think she means 2022 budget, but dear town board members, the highway department is the most critical department that keeps our roadways open, plowed, and maintained for the public to use. I have been involved with town government for well over 40 years. Superintendent Teresa Burke is the best person for this job compared to past superintendents. She is always on top of the situations and handles everything expeditiously with grace and professionalism. She deserves to have all the personnel help and mechanics that she feels will make the highway jobs run smoothly. This board, under Supervisor Robert McKeon, has created much tension and feelings of discontent among the highway and town hall staff. The town never had to unionize the highway department in the past. You give yourself raises, yet you will not spend what is needed for the highway department. I have been on many boards as a volunteer supporting various activities with time and direct money support. Perhaps you should hand over your salaries to fulfill the needs of the highway department, which serves the needs of the taxpaying public. Do the right thing and support the highway department with the funds requested by Superintendent Teresa Burke needed to allow our town to fulfill its obligation to the public. And those are the written comments we have for the public hearing. And at this time, I would make a motion to close the public hearing. Well, no, I think we're going to make some changes. So let's leave it open. Let's do that. In response to just some of those remarks for the folks at home, for the folks who've written to us, a couple of things with regard to requests from the highway department. Each department puts in requests prior to the adoption of the tentative budget. This year, we did have many requests from the highway department. And when in particular looking at staffing, our highway superintendent asked that we look to the town of Rhinebeck when comparing staffing levels, that she felt that was a good comparable, a sister town. We have the same staffing as the town of Rhinebeck. I know it's less staffing, full-time staffing than we've had in the past, but we're unfortunately not able to sustain the increasing costs of that staffing level for the folks at home. For full-timers, we provide benefits that no other municipality really provides anymore, certainly not in local government and county and state government. We pay for health insurance that at this point can cost up to $36,000 per year per employee. We pay 100% of the premium for folks who were hired prior to 2012. We pay 100% of the copay and deductible. And I'm sure folks at home know that the increases over the years have been rather dramatic. In fact, I think when I started, the first year increase was 21%, 15, 9.5%, 8 something. I think the upcoming year is 6.6% for these premiums. So understandably, if you've been hired somewhere where you're used to getting 100% of that, if you're an employee, you would want that to continue as well. We're sort of the last, one of the last municipalities that has that type of program. In addition to that, if you worked for the town of Red Hook, the policy was if you worked for 10 years till you were 55 years old, we the taxpayers pay for the health care for the rest of an employee's life. So these are policies that were put in place, maybe not with a lot of foresight about what the implications could be down the road. And these are policies that we are working hard to change, and certainly important if we are going to be able to sustain the staffing levels that we absolutely do need, as opposed to staffing levels that we'd like to have. With regard to the question about equipment, we've invested a lot of money in the highway department equipment over the last 6 years, just under $1 million, as a matter of fact. And I have here somewhere, if I can figure out how to jump over there. So, for example, if you look at 2016, that's when I started as the town supervisor. You can see the amount of,
Robert,
You're not sharing, Robert.
sorry, thank you. I'll get it. With your help, I'll get it. Tell me if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see
Yes.
the dollar amounts? I can't see them on my screen, unfortunately.
You can see them.
You
Yep.
can, okay. So if you look at 2016, you can see the equipment that we've purchased, everything from a 4x4 pickup with a plow to a loader. You heard discussion about a backhoe. A backhoe is basically a front end loader with a hoe in the back, hence it's called the backhoe. And we purchased a very fine piece of equipment back in 2016, a Caterpillar. Trailers. You see the plow trucks that we purchased also in 2019. In 2017, we bought an SUV for the highway superintendent. And again, another 10-wheel plow truck was purchased. And you see the dollar amounts there. I believe this list doesn't include the skid steer that we just authorized back a couple of months ago. This totals about $1 million in equipment. And if you look previous to that, you can see that the level of investment of new equipment that we've made since 2016 far exceeds the level of investment that was made before. So I just want to respond to any, comments about not making sufficient investments. Also at the budget workshop, I mentioned that if we were to purchase a plow truck, it would not impact the 2022 budget. We would likely set aside money in reserve in 2021, and then any financing that we would do would actually have a first payment due in 2023. And so the plow truck wouldn't have an impact on 2022. I also mentioned with regard to the backhoe, the village has a backhoe. For the folks at home, the village highway department and the town highway department share a building. And to some extent, they also share some of the equipment. But what we'd like to do is take a look at, and the mayor and I will be meeting next week, and obviously we'll need the input of both the foreman for the village and our highway superintendent, and just try to figure out how we can, best share equipment in such a way that we don't have to duplicate. Because one of the other requests we had from our highway superintendent was for a storage container to store some of this equipment, because if we each have one of our own, village and highway, we're going to start needing to expand, and that adds to the cost as well. So we'll endeavor to try and take a look at the inventory and see what kind of shared services we can do and how we can help each other during the various seasons. The village has more services that they offer for their highway department, but they have not that many lane miles, and there may be some opportunities to do shared services. We could also continue to look again at sharing plowing if we're going to increase the level of staffing with the county. They provide a stipend per lane mile. And I know there's been some desire to, when the tradition roads are deeded over to the town, to perhaps explore the village plowing them, and the town would pay the village for that. So we want to look at the equipment and make sure we're purchasing the right equipment for the right size roads. And so hopefully by the beginning of December, we can nail down and feel confident that it's the right plow truck. And we can go ahead and make that down payment allocation into the reserve account. And then with regard to the backhoe, that's probably a little bit longer discussion. The village has a fairly new backhoe, and we do have a fairly new front end loader, and both of those pieces of equipment are quite useful when you have storms and trees down and so on and so forth. So that's really what we need to do, is just figure out, make sure we're being efficient with your tax dollars. Okay, I hope I answered any questions for the public with regard to the highway equipment. All right, so I'm going to make some recommendations on some changes. Since we last met, unfortunately, we received some bad news with regard to our sales tax expectations for 2022. Let's get back there, shall we? So Dutchess County sent out the third quarter sales tax distribution because of change in population based upon initial census data, which we believe to be incorrect. We are going to start receiving $10,000 less per quarter and a very large reduction in our growth factor. It's quite possible that we could be $100,000 less than we would ordinarily be with sales tax revenue. I also mentioned that the county has informed us that in the budget, our county exec is proposing to remove sales tax on clothing under $110, and that will also have an impact on our sales tax revenue. So what I am proposing is we make some changes to the revenue and expense side on the B fund. And Anne, could I ask you to pull up the B fund, and let's start with the revenue.
Revenue, okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
There
so
we
you
go.
want to change this line, Robert?
Well, we now know that our quarterly sales tax distribution is scheduled to be 80,000 and change. And so I think we've worked out what that would come out for 4 quarters would be about 321. I think we have down there.
Okay,
Okay. On the growth factor, I don't believe we've changed that figure.
no, we didn't discuss changing it.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do then, Anne, if we could we flip over to the expense side?
Of course.
I think we have proposed now with a reduction in the quarterly to reduce the contingent account
Mm-hmm.
by a like amount.
Yes. 434. Okay,
Right, so that's a $44,000 reduction in the quarterly for sales tax. At this time, I'm going to leave the growth factor
okay,
figure there. For
Okay.
the folks at home and the town board members know this already. The growth factor is based upon the previous year, and it's going to be very tricky to estimate it for 2022 because it's going to be 2 different formulas that'll be used, but I'm hopeful that we will come in around that 185 figure. Any other changes there on the B fund and that we have?
no,
No, okay. So could we also, if we could, Ann, could we jump to the revenue side on A, please?
sure.
And I'm sorry to
You
get,
want to go down to,
I want to go to mortgage tax revenue,
Right.
please.
okay,
So I'd like to make
Yeah.
a slight adjustment in state aid
go.
mortgage tax. I'd like to propose that we lower that by 10,000. We got our September figure in. And it was a fairly noticeable drop from August.
Okay,
When we budget these revenue figures, we try to be conservative, better to be surprised on the positive side. But I think it's important that we make that adjustment.
want me to change the opposite?
Yep, if you could, yep, the reduction in the contingent.
Fine. Okay,
Thanks. And then we had some changes proposed for DB as well, just some small changes. So we had some requests to do some preliminary engineering studies by a highway superintendent. So I'd like to increase the 5010.400 professional services, that's engineering and legal.
right. What do you want to increase that to?
That's another 10,000 for that.
Okay,
And then given it's possible that we're stocked with a lot of salt right now, I'd like to lower commensurate with that, the 10,000 from the salt line to 60,000 instead of 70.
okay. Okay,
But knowing full well if we need more salt, if we have a bad winter, that obviously we'll need to do a budget adjustment for that. So that's just
okay,
an area where taking a look at the last couple of years, that quite possibly could be sufficient. In 2020, we only spent 44,000 on salt. But of course, Mother Nature will dictate how much we need for those budget lines, but our fund balances, we stand ready to make any changes throughout the year. And for the folks at home, this is really a blueprint, a map of where we think we're going for fiscal year 2022. We make budget adjustments throughout the year as needed, as we find that our expenses are exceeding or lowering our particular estimate. Revenues, the same thing. Any questions, town board members, about those changes?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't feel the need to belabor. Our public hearing is still open. Having made those changes, I would make a recommendation that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. Anne, would you let us know what we already obviously know, which is that this complies with the tax cap for,
yes, our tax, we are under the tax cap.
okay. Very good. All right, and for the folks at home, can we show them, let's say the 330,000 home sheet there, Anne?
Can you see that?
If we
Yeah.
could blow-
Yes.
See it. Yeah. Okay. And just, I didn't do a chart this year, and I apologize, I will next year, but just for the folks at home, we'd like to show you what your portion of your tax bill is. That comes from town taxes. It's a very small percentage. I don't need to tell you, the largest obviously is the school district. If there are two figures of town taxes. One is if you live in the village. We do certain things that are taxable to both village residents and to town residents. For example, the assessing gets done here at Town Hall. It's done for both villages and for the town-wide. And if you have an average house assessed at $330,000 here in Red Hook, you would be paying $333 in town taxes for fiscal year 2022. If you live outside the town, you would be paying the combination of the two, $390 and $333. So you'd be paying $723 per year for all the services that we provide here in the town. And I think that pretty much covers it. We can do the tax rate sheet if you like. And that just shows you the percentages of change in the tax rate. You see over there that column percentage change from current year. Again, we're reducing the tax rate because the residential assessments went up by 4%. We're keeping your taxes in the amount that we're taxing the same as last year. Okay, very good. We could do debt limit. We've done a lot of investments in our community. I don't need to tell you. I'm sure if you've been out and about, you've seen them, whether they're sidewalks or rec parks or preserving open space or parking lot, clean energy. And we've been able to keep our debt at a very low level. And I can only see a portion of that.
Sorry,
sheet
go at the
area.
bottom there.
No worries, that's great. The comptroller's office would want us to know what our debt limit is. That means we can borrow 7% of the full valuation of the properties in our community. We could have debt of $82.7 million. Instead, what we have is $4,948,000. And that's primarily for things like the highway garage that was built and some farmland preservation stuff and some of that equipment that we talked about. And much of that debt associated with the equipment, the final payment is in 2022, so we can continue to buy more in the next year or two. Okay. All right. That's really all I have. Any questions, town board members, for fiscal year 22? Or do we feel we're ready to vote on approving adopting this budget?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, very good. Bill O'Neill, would you like to make a motion to
I'll
adopt?
make a motion to approve the budget as you've just presented it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill Hamel. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Christine Kane,
Aye.
myself, aye. Before we say goodnight, I'd like to thank Ann Conway for all her help throughout the year to make it easy to get these numbers together and to, have a budget that works for all of us. So
Thank you,
thank you
Anne.
very much, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we close tonight's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. All in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel,
Aye.
and Bill O'Neill.
Aye. Thanks, Robert.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
And everyone.